Hello everybody, welcome back to Dad's Read Along Stories. My name is Josh, I'm a dad, and today we are reading another Thomas the Train book because you guys love them and I love them as well. Today we're reading Thomas and Friends, Thomas and the Beanstalk. I haven't read this one yet, but it looks really silly and a little weird, so we'll see how it is. Well, let's read it together and let's talk about what we think about the book at the end, okay? Thomas and the Beanstalk. After a busy day on the island of Sodor, Thomas the Tank Engine decided to tell James and Percy his favorite fairy tale, Jack and the Beanstalk. "I like the part about the magic beans," Percy peeped. "I wish a magic beanstalk would grow here on Sodor." The next day, Thomas picked up some sacks of beans from the farm. "Just like in my bedtime story," he chuckled. Suddenly, Diesel 10 appeared around a bend. "Get out of my way!" Diesel 10 roared. Thomas couldn't move fast enough. Diesel 10 bashed into him and raced off. Thomas crashed into a side rail and tipped over. Some of the cargo spilled out onto the tracks. Thomas awoke and noticed some beans scattered into the grass next to his tracks. One grew into a towering beanstalk. "Those must have been magic beans!" Thomas exclaimed. The giant beanstalk had a railway track circling all the way to the top. Curious, Thomas decided to ride up the track. Around and around Thomas climbed. It seemed like the beanstalk went on forever. Finally, Thomas reached the top. He saw an amazing sight. There, up above the clouds, Thomas discovered a giant, magical world. That's crazy. "Bust my buffers," he gasped. "Everything is so big." Thomas followed the track into a castle courtyard. There, he realized he was traveling on a Sodor-sized railway. All the buildings, trees, and railway signs were just the right size for Thomas. It was a toy train set. "Why is everything else so big?" Thomas wondered aloud. Then Thomas heard the sound of a steam whistle. Thomas looked around, but he couldn't tell where the sound came from. At that moment, the ground beneath him began to shake. Suddenly, a gigantic foot landed in front of him. Thomas looked up and saw a man towering over the entire courtyard. Whoa. He was a giant, just like the giant from Thomas's bedtime story. Thomas saw a gleaming gold steam engine on the track ahead of him. But the giant reached down with his enormous hand, picked her up, and put her down on another track. The giant played with the gold engine as if it were a toy. Suddenly, Diesel 10 steamed by. He was big enough for the giant himself to ride in. The giant put down the gold engine and stomped over to the huge Diesel. The gold engine told Thomas that she had been taken from her home. "I run on golden coal," she said. "I wish I could go home." Thomas didn't know how to get her home, but he promised to take her to the island of Sodor, where everything was the right size for them. "Sodor sounds wonderful," the gold engine said. Thomas told her that they could escape down the giant beanstalk. They headed towards the courtyard gate, but Thomas was out of coal. The gold engine gave Thomas some golden coal, and Thomas felt magical. They quickly raced toward the gate. Suddenly, the giant cried, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I see two engines on the run. If they're toys or if they're real, I'll now have two engines to steal." That's not very kind. The giant and Diesel 10 chased after Thomas and the gold engine. "Get back here, little tank engine!" Diesel 10's booming voice rang out. Thomas sped up, heading towards the Beanstalk. If they could just get back to the island of Sodor, he knew everything would be all right. Thomas and the gold engine sped down the track towards Sodor, but the giant was coming down the Beanstalk after them. "Oh no!" Thomas exclaimed. When he made it to the bottom, Thomas thought quickly. He backed up and bashed into the Beanstalk with all his might. He saw his friends James and Percy in the distance, and he called them to help. All 4 engines slammed into the Beanstalk. The Beanstalk and the giant were about to fall. Thomas closed his eyes, bracing for the crash. Thud! Thomas opened his eyes. Percy and James were there, but the little gold engine was gone. "It must have been a dream," Thomas said to his friends. Suddenly, Thomas's driver held up a piece of golden coal that he had found in Thomas's hopper. Thomas gasped. It had all been a dream, hadn't it? The end. That was Thomas and the Beanstalk. I said that book might be a little weird, and I think it was a little weird, but it was also really good. And we love Thomas the Tank Engine and reading all about his adventures. And I hope that you have some good adventures the rest of your day. Bye, guys. Have a great day.